Talkin' Pop podcast. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and you knew it was going to be a big event that was going to bring us back together, and we've been hyping up Wakanda Forever on this podcast. We've been talking about it for a very long time. We've been saying how excited we are to see it. We've all seen it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to do a deep dive into a return to form for Marvel, as far as I'm concerned. But before we get to that, we have some sad news off the top that I think we should hit on. You know, anyone who's listened to this pod in the past knows that when it comes to like the geek verse, I would say this is a Batman pod first. First and foremost, I think if you gave us all held a gun to all three of our heads and said, you can only talk about one geek-related topic, I think all three of us would say, okay, well, it has to be Batman-related. And unfortunately, Kevin Conroy passed away this past week. Very sad. Obviously best known as the voice of Batman in Batman the Animated Series. But then, you know, after he passed away and people started sharing like imagery and stuff, you really like he did way more than Batman the Animated Series. Yeah, and so I just wanted to take a moment just to like honor him and just maybe touch on something that like your favorite thing he did. Like I'll go first just to like kick us off. You guys know that I'm a huge stan of the Arkham games. Like I love those games. I've played all four of them, particularly the three in which Conroy was involved in over and over and over and over and over again. And they're fantastically well-made games that actually do an incredible job of making you feel like you are Batman and putting you in his shoes or in his cowl. Mm-hmm. But what put those games over the top and what made them so good was they were good, but what made them great was the inclusion of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, respectively, and a fantastic. It punched you right in the feels, this one.
Yeah. This, I mean, you know what? Like I can only look to Batman the Animated Series as if you know I have to give just one sort of thing that stands out. That has to be it. He is Batman. He is the one person who has portrayed him, in this case in voice only, but that captured all facets of that character so seamlessly and so true to what is at the heart of Batman. Like he all
simply
sides,
through his voice.
That's exactly right. Like the Playboy persona, the broken child inside, the tough brawler, the detective. Like he pulls that off all so well. You know, if I think a couple of my favorites, like Mask of the Phantasm is, you know, one of the best Batman movies ever.
Maybe the best.
Period, full stop. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I could sit here forever and talk about like old episodes of the animated series. I'm a big Riddler fan. I love, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? That's one that I love. Those are such good memories, and it was just something that was like a staple on television. So yeah, he's been kind of like a comfort, and you know, I didn't play those games like you did, Rob, but I certainly was a spectator to them, and would go and be a dork and look at the cutscenes on YouTube and stuff. And it's like, it just brought you back to like what was a really good memory and feeling of being a kid. So yeah, sorely missed. A very sad, you know, I didn't realize he was unwell. So it was a shock for me. And we'll miss you, Kevin.
Yeah, it's tough. Like this was, like Rob, you kind of said too. There's just certain, you know, people in this world that you maybe sometimes don't even realize how much you admire until they pass away, which is you know, sad in and of itself. But you know, I feel like Kevin Conroy was actually one of those people that you don't realize, you know, especially for 90s kids when we grew up listening to his voice portray one of the great superhero characters of all time. in cartoon form, and you start to realize how much of an impact he actually had on you growing up. And nothing, to me, there's a couple points I'm going to make here, but the real through line of this is when you see the outpouring from not only the fans but his quote unquote coworkers. So the people that worked with him. So like Tara Strong, who is a massive voice actress, does Harley Quinn. Mark Hamill, obviously, as the Joker, and the list goes on, and you just hear the outpouring of support and love that they had for this man, and who he was, and beyond that. And then when you look at what he did in his career, and especially, again, being very well known as the voice of Batman in the animated series and onward, but he was really kind of the definition of what it is to be a voice actor. And what a lot of people don't realize is because you think just because you can do an impression of a voice, or like, I can do a Batman voice if I really, but that's not the whole thing. The whole thing is really, he's an actor. He's an actor that does a voice. And if you haven't seen it, there's a really, really great clip of him talking about what he said, what he thought was his favorite scene as the Batman that he ever did. And it was in Mask of the Phantasm. And it was him talking about the scene where he is actually at the grave of his parents. And he's talking to them about being like, I don't know what to do. And I always remember, yes,
I need it to be different.
I need it to be different now. And you think about even like the emphasis that he put into his voice in those kind of scenes. And
it's what Kelly was saying.
I remember
he encompassed everything.
Yeah. I remember being a kid and remember thinking like, there's certain cartoons and stuff you grow up with that like impact you, like whether it was like, Bambi or something where it's like something sad that like really kind of impacted you. And I always remember that scene, and to hear him talk about how that scene was actually the most encompassing for him and why was so fascinating. And it just sounded like truly just like a beautiful soul. And I think it came through in his performances, and especially as the Caped Crusader. And
to my knowledge, he only ever portrayed him in live action once. And that was in like an older, I want to say multiverse version of Bruce Wayne in the Batgirl or Batwoman TV series on the CW.
Oh,
so this was much later on.
Yes,
There's tons of great Kevin Conroy stuff on YouTube. There's so much great stuff. Yeah, like there's tons of great like behind the scenes things of him doing the Arkham games. Like there's so much great stuff. The last thing I want to say, and I know I speak for you two as well when I say this, is for the rest of our lives, anytime you see a Batman comic book panel or anything, any illustration of Batman with a speech bubble above his head, there's going to be one voice that you hear when you read those words.
Yep.
100%.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to our topic du jour this week. It is time to do a deep dive into Black Panther Wakanda Forever. As I mentioned off the top, this was a movie that I think we all had circled on the calendar. You can go back through previous episodes, and we all had expressed that we were really excited to see this. It's been an up and down year for Marvel. This has not been our favorite year for Marvel content, and I think that we are in the majority of people who, at least from what I see, I think we're in the majority of people who feel that way. Mm-hmm. So going into this, I think our expectations were quite high, and I'm going to we'll let Kelly kick it off, her thoughts first. But this is a movie that really deals with the subject of grief. We all knew going in that the loss of Chadwick Boseman and the emotion sort of surrounding that was going to play a deep part in this movie, a deep role.
Absolutely.
And it did.
Yeah.
Especially in the first like 20 minutes. It's it is like a gut punch. And they do a really good job of sort of expressing that. And grief is a through line that travels through the whole movie.
Yes.
So Kelly, we'll start with you and just kick us off with your thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Okay. Where to start with this one? This one's kind of tricky for me. Because there's things that I really thought were great, And then there were things that I didn't love. And the more that I thought about the things that I didn't love, the more I was like, oh, like, why? Like, why did we have to do that? So let me start things off. It's been a while since we've all been together. So I'll try and, we just, gave a sad tribute to our departed Kevin Conroy. So I'll start things positive. So what I liked about the movie, I thought everything to do with the handling of Chadwick Boseman and the character of T'Challa was handled very respectfully and thoughtfully. And I thought the moments where we had complete silence to just sort of reflect on that person's life was just very well done. And I thought, like, just even no sound made such an impact. So I give them a lot of credit for that. Because it could have been gross, right? They could have really exploited this. It could have been done and handled poorly. I thought it was done very tastefully. I think we had a great villain in this movie.
Yes.
I think we had a great villain and like a great, I guess I'll call it like, entourage around that villain and
they do not call him general or king. They call him Cuckoo Khan.
Yes. And
the feather serpent god.
Yes.
That was very good.
Great. He is great.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Great villain.
He's always good. Yeah.
Excellent villain. Yeah. And then and we'll get more into like the details, but just kind of off the top, like the other piece of this that can't be denied is like the acting performances are incredible.
Across the board.
Everybody shows up. Everybody does an incredible job. Like, let's just talk about Angela Bassett for a second. Like, this woman was just chewing the scenery, like,
but without chewing the scenery.
It's just like incredible. Like everybody, you could kind of feel they were having this sort of cathartic experience from just being a part of this movie, right?
Their friend,
their friend is gone in real life, and this was sort of this kind of this like lovely way to come together and sort of work through that. So all of that was there for me, and that's what I really, really enjoyed about this movie. What I didn't enjoy, and we'll get into the details, is everything that had to do with the Marvel formula in this movie detracted from what I thought was probably a better movie. Like, there was a better movie here if we didn't bog it down in some of the Marvel stuff, introducing new characters.
Brad, I didn't realize we were doing this podcast with Martin Scorsese this evening.
I'm saying
director's cap.
There was a lot stuffed into this movie. We had to deal with a lot of grief, a lot of really heavy themes, and then we also had to introduce Ironheart and have a clunky third act and all the things that we've ripped Marvel for before. I thought, like, sadly, were also present in this movie, and they kind of took away from it for me. And I just think there was a cleaner, simpler, character-driven story in here that just got a little bit too bogged down in having to do some Marvel world building, which also, for me, made it feel a little bloated. This movie was long. It was really long.
I didn't realize how long it was until I was at the theater, and I was like, maybe I should check how long this is. Come home and let my dog go out, and I was like 2 hours, 41 minutes. He's gonna have to pee.
Yeah, so I certainly I did not I did not have like terrible feelings towards this movie. I just didn't. I really wanted to love it, and I can't in good conscience say that I loved it. But interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah,
Brad, over to you.
You know what's funny? Like, even as you're talking about it, I know what you're saying. Especially about like the third act, definitely a little clunky. Ironheart being introduced was, I wouldn't even necessarily say like unnecessary. Not that you did, but I'm thinking in my head, like, was that necessary? But again, like, I don't know. I don't know if she needed to be in there or not. For me, the overarching feeling I got from the movie was I loved it. I thought that it was very much a moment of kind of, well, the real MCU, please stand up.
Yes.
Like, let's go. Let's go. There was
not that I disagree with your points, Kelly, but I'm for the most part, I'm with Brad 1,000%.
No, I did appreciate, just to also be clear, because I think you guys will touch on this. Like, I think I also, from a positive perspective, I appreciated the tone of this movie. Like, there were moments of levity where it made sense. Okoye, for example, is like a sassy character, so we played into that where it made sense. And none of the humor or points of levity felt shoehorned in. So I thought tonally, absolutely, this had like Winter Soldier vibes and stuff like that, where it's just that
that's what I
serious
thought.
Tone. Yeah,
that's interesting. I was going to say that. I actually thought that not that other Marvel movies of the past before Winter Soldier didn't necessarily like delve into like moments of darker themes or what have you. But to me, Winter Soldier was like the first one that really kind of gave it like a real grittiness that we hadn't seen before. And it was like, ooh. And I really felt like this was very much in that pocket, very much in that vein. And so for me, that was a major takeaway from it. Because again, it just felt like the MCU again. Whether it was your favorite MCU movie of all time, I think is, a different discussion. But for me, just in general, it was kind of like we're back to, and I don't want to say basics because that makes it sound like they're just being ultra formula, but we're kind of back to like the tonality that I think everybody wants, which is, I think there's times for comedy. I think there's time for action. I think there's all these things. But again, it's like, it was always to me about the blend, about like, we really care about these characters. We can feel the stakes. So when you have those moments of levity, that makes you love the character. And then when the gravity of the situation starts happening or taking place, you really care about that character. And you're like, oh my God, I don't want anything to happen to them. And I think nothing was more true to that than how they got Shuri across in this movie. Because there was, I think, and it's not fair to her or anybody that would have to step into that role after Chadwick passed away, but to know that he was so beloved and so much weight was on the fact that somebody else by the real world circumstance now has to step into those shoes. Not only was it a lot of pressure for, the movie, but real life. And so it was all kind of getting jumbled together. And you almost kind of have this vibe of like, you're never going to be able to fill those shoes. And I thought they did such a good job at narrating that in this movie. Because it was what we were already all thinking. And it was like they were playing 3D chess while writing this movie. They were like, people are probably going to feel this way. So we should lean into it. And I thought that the way they got her across in general, and especially the moment to me where it was like, oh, wow. Oh my God, this is good quality writing, was when Killmonger shows up. It was such like, a moment. Killmonger! Yes, but it was like, not only was it cool to see him, but it was such a poignant thing to do. To make you understand that it was like, she's angry. It was almost a little the dark side, like kind of vibe. Yes, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Instead of just like forcing her down our throat to be like, love her, and being like, she is, the Black Panther. It was kind of like, no, we're going to give you a dynamic character that we are going to make you understand and make you be in her shoes of like, what would you be feeling? How would you be if like your entire family got wiped out and now you're also just this, in this precarious position of being now in charge? Like, how would you feel? How would you react? I thought it was absolutely brilliant writing. Sorry if you guys can hear that. My computer's going crazy. But anyways, I thought
it's all good on our end.
Brilliant. I thought it was brilliant.
I want to give, so first of all, I completely agree on the sort of character progression of Shuri. I want to give props to Latita Wright. I thought she did a fantastic job. You could really feel her grief.
Yes.
Like she got the I am grieving aspect of the character over. I believed she was in like emotional pain, and she felt like, not responsible, but she's like, I could have done more to save my brother's life. And
yeah,
my brother was taken away from me, and that's not fair. Yeah. And I'm pissed about that. And I thought she was awesome.
Yeah.
The one person that I came out, and I already had the utmost respect for him going in, but the one person that I came out of this movie and was like, props to you, sir, is Ryan Coogler.
Oh,
the writing in this movie, and Kelly, the things that you flagged that I agree with
are not Ryan Cooglerism for sure.
100%.
No, I agree with that 1,000%. I agree with that.
Marvel has been criticized in the past, like justly, on shitty villains.
Yes.
And like you could count on one hand the amount of quality villains that Marvel has had throughout their history.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's a nothing villain that you don't care about. They got Namor over. Ryan Coogler pushed this guy to the moon. He was like, be afraid of Cuckoo Khan. He is
that first scene with Lake Bell, and they're on the I don't know what the character's name is, but that's the actress, and they're on the boat and they have the real like M. Night Shyamalan happening sonic sonic hypnosis and stuff. Like that is so well done, but then they also later on get him over like empathetically.
Yes. And they give him a great...
They kind of muck it up at the end for me, but...
That's good writing. Again,
They give him a great backstory. And this is not to take... I'm sorry, I don't mean to take a shot at you here, Taika. I love you. But I wouldn't trust that those Namor would be handled as seriously as Ryan Coogler handled him if it was in a Thor movie, quite frankly.
Yeah, I just think that it's very much like what I was, and I'm just echoing what you guys are saying, but it's essentially like a very similar comparison to Shuri, where it was kind of like, or any villain that we've seen that has really gotten over to the audience, that it has to all be in the writing. It all has to be. You have to have a level of relatability to what that villain is going through. Because if you don't, it just comes off as flat. I don't know how else to put it. And to have that layered story in a movie that was already going to be dealing with so many things, to have still had the wherewithal or the foresight to write a dynamic villain to get it all across.
Yeah, and
even his people, point, I got it. And you can see it. It was like, I relate to all these things. This makes sense. I understand. I get why he feels this way. Like, this is all very like, this is good. This is quality. This is top.
Yeah,
Kelly, I love you flagging that opening scene where they attack like the submarine, because it's like the people of Talokan, like it's really easy for them to come off as silly. Like it's really easy. Like they're blue, they're wearing breathers, like they look like they're from Atlantis. Like they're really like, it's so easy for them to show up on screen and for you to go, oh boy.
What that scene did was, because you've got two, I'll call them countries. I don't know if you consider the underwater a country, but let's call it a country. You've got two countries who are like dealing with like the threat of colonialism, basically. And it's like, and so in really they parallel each other and they have a lot in common, and they actually, like, on paper, like, should be allies, and that is kind of like what Namor is trying to accomplish. But just that scene, and sort of almost like the violence of that scene, immediately sets the tone that, like, these two civilizations handle this type of conflict very differently. And so, like, that immediately set up that, like, they're the same but different, and that was very clear. So that was really well done. I think, like, again, like, I just have there's little issues I have throughout the movie, but, like, this all really boils down to, like, third act problems for me. Can we talk about the third act a bit?
We will in a minute. I want to make sure we touch on characters, and then we'll get to the third act. Did we catch the huge line that Namor says when he's talking about his origin?
Oh, did I ever?
Oh yeah, that he's a mutant.
Thank you for reminding me. I was a mutant.
I am a mutant.
Yes, sir. I was like, okay.
And at his I've been reading, obviously, interviews with the cast and Feige and stuff, and, like, at his strongest, obviously, he's just as strong as Thor.
Yeah, I mean that comes across.
I think they said something about, like, relating his strength to the Hulk in the movie at some point. Yeah,
I just, like, just to hit on it one more time. I was sitting there and I was just like, they are really, like, pushing Namor. Like, they are really, like, you don't fuck with Namor and Talakon.
No, I also, you know what I will say too, just to stick on him for just a quick second. You know what I also liked about the writing in this movie, especially when it came to Namor, was the fact that by the end, it wasn't like a clean, like, he's dead, let's move on, like, we won. It was very much like a well thought out, interesting, very relatable ending to that movie, where he essentially, they came to a truce, and you saw him having the discussion while he was painting his new mural when he was losing to Shuri as Black Panther, of him essentially saying, we have a new ally, and when they get attacked, they'll come to us. And it was like, wow,
it was very much like a business decision.
Yeah.
Like he was sort of explaining it like in a business deal. He's like, this is a smart move for us right now.
Yeah, and as far as, like, global politics, political. I mean, some of the movie takes place at the UN. It's very much like a very country to country UN decision.
France was not playing nice with the Wakandans.
No,
they were not.
No, France was like,
France came out of this looking real shitty.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job. That's why. That's why Wakandans don't want to share their technology, vibranium, because they don't trust.
Yeah, France was like, we're gonna get that vibranium.
Who knew?
Poor France.
Kelly, you talked about it earlier. Let's all just go do a round table of Angela Bassett. I'm seeing the word Oscar thrown around. I think it's her monologue where she talks about. My entire family is gone. Like, it's like whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh,
so great.
She's incredible. She's also, like, just gonna say this too, she's stunningly beautiful. Like, I could not stop staring at this woman's face. Like, stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, like, how old is she? Because she looks amazing.
She looks incredible. And she's just so believable as, like, this regal monarch character. Like, that's not
great
a stretch.
Way of putting it. There's such a bravado to her.
Absolutely.
Angela Bassett is 64 years old.
She looks great. And so I'm just gonna say this now because we can move on, because I think it's just a subjective opinion, so I won't have us waste too much time on it. I did not personally like that her character ate it in this movie, like, and that she passed away. Yeah, I didn't like that. And maybe that's because in real life she's 64 years old and she doesn't care to be in Marvel movies anymore. Maybe that's actually what it was. Who knows? Maybe. I just felt, for me, I'll just put this out there, it just piled on to what was already, like, an incredibly...
You're right. I don't think it was needed.
I don't think it was needed. I think you could have had, like, that really, I like, this movie had kind of, like, up and down in terms of, like, quality of action for me. I think some of the earlier action scenes were better than some of the later ones. But the scene where they sort of like infiltrate Wakanda and they like flood it and all that stuff, that's really well done. And I think you still could have had her be victim to Namor, and maybe she goes into like a coma or something, right? And I think that still would have fueled Shuri enough, and then we could have maybe had an ending. And I know, like I know we can say that no, she's got to kind of do this journey on her own, and that's her realization. It's just subjective for me. I just think that there was, a very significant loss at the center of this movie that was also reflected in real life, and I wanted that to just kind of remain the focus for me. I just didn't. I don't
disagree.
I didn't. Love
I will push back just a little bit, only because I think two things. One, I didn't see it coming, which, for all of, the critics of superhero movies, one of the major takeaways is they always say they're so predictable. And I will honestly tell you, I did not see that happening for the exact reason that you were saying, that I just thought that it was like, okay, we got a big death already that we're dealing with in this film. I very much doubt they're going to kill off another character. So even as it was happening, like in my head, I was like, oh no, but I'm like, nah, they're not gonna kill her character off. And then they did, and it was like, oh, what? No. And I will say, like, that range of emotion, like, did something to me, or affected me as a viewer. And then not only that, I think it actually really lent itself to the overall rage that Shuri was going through. And I think it made sense. I think it made sense for the fact that it was like, you could have just had Shuri be mad, at the world for what happened to T'Challa. But I do think that it was like she was already on the edge and she was kind of keeping herself together. And then it was kind of like the shove that pushed her over the edge, that it was like, she can't take it anymore. And she's going to go get revenge on the world. To me, from that perspective, I actually thought it added a lot to it, because, time was continuing to roll along. It's like, how long is she going to stay so angry about T'Challa? But it's like, she was still dealing with that. And, they touched on it, how she didn't want to burn her robe, her mourning robe, and then the fact that she didn't do that, and then her mom died on top of it. So it's like, she's still not over the one thing, and then you have that on top. I think it very much added to the overall arc at the end.
It was also to fuel her anger towards Namor,
exactly,
because earlier she had gone down to Talokan, and she was like, Namor is a great leader for these people.
I think something needed to, like, I'm not suggesting something didn't need to happen. I think this is just where I'll leave it, is I think it made the ending where they decide to sort of like come to a truce a little harder for me mentally, because it's like, no, you've done something quite unforgivable, sir. Like, not sure I'd be cool with, like, not sure I'm just like, you know what? You go back to your country. No, no imprisonment, no problem. Like, I just
killing her. If she killed Namor, she would have surrendered to Emperor Killmonger and the dark side. So she couldn't do that.
Yeah,
she had to keep him alive.
She's also the queen now. She has to make decisions that are best for her people,
I guess.
So she made the right decision.
I want to touch on, we touched on Okoye earlier. Kelly did briefly. Fantastic.
Well, always heart-wrenching when she gets her stripped of her military rank. That was just awful.
She's so good. She was also
she is so good.
She was also in The Walking Dead, and I just remember thinking at the time how awesome she was. And she was a relative unknown as far as in what I had seen of different movies and television. She was a relative unknown, and I remember watching that show thinking, my God, this woman is excellent. And to see her carry it over into this, in what maybe some people would consider like a very secondary role, I'm sure even when the movie was originally written, to see how much she has put into that role. And now she's like a legitimate fan favorite amongst the masses. It's just like, I think the sky's the limit for her. I think that is such
100%.
I think she's excellent.
Yeah, and I really enjoy, particularly with Okoye, but honestly, I'll speak, like, honestly of that entire cast. Like, I really, really, really appreciate, like, this movie was predominantly a female-led movie. Like,
very much.
Like,
like 100%.
And what I loved about it was it wasn't how I'm gonna go real like world view. How we get to like a world where like men and women are viewed equal and all that thing is just by like making it normal. And like there was nothing in this movie that was like girl power. Like it was just like these women kick ass. These women kick ass, and we just know that they do, and that's it. And we don't have to like talk about it and make it a big thing. I really, like they are all
the bridge.
Like, like it's so
and
well done.
She would see the other like Telecon soldier a couple times, and they would go warrior.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Like it just they did a really good job.
So good.
Yeah.
Speaking of this female cast, I'm here to tell anyone who will listen, I love Lupita Nyong'o. I get giddy when I see Lupita Nyong'o. She is great, and I love her character. I love that Nakia's on sort of on the outside, like she's left Wakanda, but like she's still like so formidable, and like obviously her and T'Challa had a romance, and like she's just like she's fantastic, and they need her when Shuri is taken. Like Queen Ramonda goes and gets her and is like, I need your help. And she's doing like noble things in Haiti. And she's just like, she's fantastic. Yeah. I'm here to tell you, if it's got Lupita Nyong'o in it, I'm down to watch it.
Same.
Wow, 100%. I had no idea you were such a fan, Rob. That's really great.
I am. I'm a huge fan. She came on screen, and I leaned over to my wife, and I was like, I love Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah. She's she's another example of one of these actors that gets brought into a project that you just know that they're going to add a level of gravitas to the movie that just grounds the whole thing. Angela Bassett, like they're all again, this movie has that in spades, which good for them. My
performances are great.
But she's just got this, again, she's kind of, in a lot of ways, she kind of is like the heartbeat of the movie.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
And just that is proven in the post credits scene, the mid credits scene.
Exactly, perfect segue too. So yeah, she is excellent.
I want to hit on two more things really quickly, because I want to talk about Dominique Thorne and Ironheart and where she sort of fits in her future. Mm-hmm. But quickly, let's just touch really quick on Winston Duke.
Yeah, he's great. Like there's no complaints here. He's great.
He's arguably one of my all-time favorite characters in all of the MCU, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
Did you lean over to your significant other and say, "I really love Winston Duke"? Is that what you did? Yeah.
It's like there's just like something about that guy. And like his performance in both Black Panther movies that I'm just like, you're such a dick, and I love you, man. Like what? Yeah. You are just. Yeah. He has this extremely dry humor about the way he delivers his lines, and at the same time has this. I just used this word, but I use it again. Gravitas to his performance that I'm like, I would not mess with that guy. I would not mess with that guy. He is such a badass in those movies, and I think that he, again, just adds such a dynamic level to those movies that I'm like, if he wasn't in these movies, I'd be so mad. I'd be so upset.
Yeah, it's
such a dynamic character.
They got M'Baku so right in this.
Arrogance meets Heart of Gold, and it just works.
Yes.
Yes.
And I know you guys remember the scene where he's talking to Shuri about like, you know, she's got the powers now and everything, and he's like, "This isn't what your mother wanted," And you see him kind of like drop the armor for a second.
Yeah.
And like talk to her in a real way. And it was like, like you want to talk about moments that really catch me in the feels. It's like when the really like overly strong person drops the facade for a second just to kind of like, you know, grab your attention. Because it just, again, it holds a lot of weight. I said it once and I'll say it again in this. Good writing. Good quality writing.
Okay, lastly, let's talk about Dominique Thorne and Ironheart. Yeah. And let's also have a joint discussion about, like, Kelly's take earlier on the third act, which I agree with. And because I think she was a huge part of what felt kind of shoehorned. And I think that's obviously a character that they want. Like, she's getting her own show. Yeah. And that's a character that they have plans for. And I don't know. I don't know if she needed to have such a prominent role in this. Like, I think they could have like introduced her or cameoed her or whatever. And I'm only saying that from the standpoint of, I don't think she got the time to like the scene where they go and meet her at the university is very funny. And then like, she's a huge part of that chase. Yeah. It's a huge part of that chase. But then by the time she puts the suit on, it's like they kind of rush her into the suit.
I don't need her in the suit. That's my problem, right? Like if they just introduced her as like this intelligent person, the intelligent scientist, you know, and then that was the extent of her role. And then they kind of maybe end the movie with like her and Shuri kind of sharing a look of like, maybe I'll get in on the action next time. Then you'd be like, oh, okay, she'll be Ironheart. Cute. To me, to get her in the suit, flying around, doing math equations in the sky, I'm like, can we not, like, every time she was on the ground wearing her regular shoes in her regular clothes and having a conversation, I thought she was quite enjoyable, great actress, very authentic feel, like, thought she was great. Fault. The second she was put in a suit and was calculating the velocity, I was just like, can you stop? Like, so annoying. So annoying.
I think the issues of things that felt shoehorned are, I hate to keep dogging Marvel and Disney, but it's like kind of systemic in the sense that like, we got to get this in, we got to get that in. And to an extent, it didn't take away, it watered down this really great emotional movie that Ryan Coogler had written. Mm-hmm. Just so Disney could get their teases in for, make sure you spend $9.99 to sign up for Disney Plus to see what happens next with Ironheart. Like and I think that's systemic of what Disney has done with Marvel. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of Brad's point when he said, the thing that we like the most about this movie is, will the real MCU please stand up? Because it's not, second-rate Marvel Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. That's not, the Disney Plus Marvel stuff has proven over time to be second-rate. And that's what we love so much about this one is you're like, oh my God, this is an MCU movie. Hallelujah. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I just felt like the Ironheart thing, I agree. You know what? You could have even had the first part where she's flying around in like her makeshift suit, and that could even be a tease. But she did not need to put on the full-blown suit and suit up for battle. The whole thing felt like a mini teaser for the Ironheart TV show when you could have had that anyway. And it's just,
I think
it's a business decision. Yeah. And that's what I don't like.
I just think that there's, you know what it is for me, and exactly what I think this is just kind of, bouncing off of what you guys are saying, but I'm just trying to think of it from their perspective of, I understand why they're doing some of these things because again,
yes, I agree.
You have, I mean, it's a business, number one, and number two, you want to keep the money train a moving, a chugging, and I understand. So from that perspective, it's not like, especially like the three of us, because we love all the content and everything. It's not like we're so opposed to seeing like any sort of, like transition into, we're also going to have this and like, we love
an Easter egg.
We love it. We love it. I just feel like they've almost just kind of lost their tactfulness for how
Yes,
we're
their gravitas.
their gravitas as far as how we're
Is that gonna be the name of this episode?
Yeah.
Gravitas.
Yeah.
It's the word of the day.
Yeah, and it's
today's
just,
episode is sponsored by Gravitas.
Gravitas. Get those things moving. So I think like gravel, you got it. I thought maybe that'd be over your head. Yeah. Okay.
Go to sleep on a plane.
Very good. Yeah, my thing is just like how we're doing it at this point. It's just very kind of like, oh shit, we forgot to do this. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's almost just kind of like and again, I'm just echoing things you guys have already said, but just to put a cap on what I'm saying here, it's like we wrote a really great movie and then we went into production and almost kind of went, oh shit, we forgot to we need to add this because we're actually doing this show. And so before they actually started shooting, they were kind of like, we got to make Ironheart a bigger character, so we got to like do this scene and this scene to make sure that it comes across okay. As though the audience exactly, mm-hmm. And it's like as though the audience like this is the golden age of the audience being aware, meaning of all content, because it's just the internet is such a thing now where we can, stream things and go back and rewatch that. It's not like, one thing happened last week, and if I miss last week's episode, I'm not going to know what's happening. It's like they're almost assuming that we're kind of dumb and have to like show like, no, seriously, we're doing an Ironheart show. Like, this is what has to happen. Exactly to your point. Like, we could just be kind of teasing it in a more subtle, tactful way that
they used to do.
Like they used to do. And guess what? We all figured it out. Yeah. We all figured it out. Like, we were there in the theater watching the next one.
It feels like these types of decisions are being made in a boardroom, and they're being made like, we need to use this vehicle of Wakanda Forever to promote this Disney Plus series that's coming up. And it's like, no, if Wakanda Forever is really good and you write the character of Ironheart in such a way, when people see that there's a Disney Plus series, they'll go, oh, there it is. Let's watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Like and that's we're all definitely saying the same thing. It's just like you don't have to spoon feed it to us, I think is essentially what it's coming down to. You just need to give us a little like, and that's it. That's all you need to do.
You know what it feels like? When you watch a trailer, but then there's a trailer for the trailer? That's what it feels like. Like, I'm like, I get it. We know what we're going to see. We know.
Or one of those trailers that's literally like, I just watched the whole thing. Like,
there's
again, very spoon-fed. It's kind of like, we got to make sure the audience really gets that this is a rom-com.
And so,
we get it.
You could do a whole other episode on these companies that just don't give their audiences enough credit.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. My God.
Yeah.
Just while we're kind of in the third act, like, her presence was obviously like a bit problematic for me, but I think overall, like, it also suffered from a little bit of just like generic Marvel third act action. Like, I would have liked to have spent more time in like the little desert fight with Shuri and Namor, and like just really have that feel like it was like, like they it wasn't completely not there. Like, I think they still did a half decent job, but I'm just like, I don't know, like it just, and then you've got Okoye in the suit, and it felt kind of like Iron Man 3. You've got all of them flying, or like it just, like, I'm just like, quieter. Like, it doesn't need to be. Yep. It doesn't need to be this big action set piece. Like, we can do something a little quieter and more impactful.
I will say, at least for me, there was at least a little bit more of an element of it was earned. Like, I don't.
Yes.
I while I still fully agree, I still think that there was at least more, again, good quality writing throughout it. That it didn't feel like it wasn't kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, we also have these cool suits that we're gonna throw in here because we need to sell some toys or whatever. It was kind of like they had been kind of building on these suits that Shuri was
and Okoye's reluctance
sure. Yeah,
but I'm with you, Kelly.
I thought that was.
I think I'm with you, Kelly. I would have liked to have seen like let's stay with Shuri and Namor. Let's kill the music. Let's have emotion.
So impactful.
Let's see Shuri, like, which they did, but
just a little, just stayed with
just
it.
A little
Actually, I do have to tell you guys. So when it was an incredibly emotional movie, there was one point where my husband and I were in absolute tears laughing because in the emotional climax of that fight, Rob, you've been making Emperor Palpatine references all night. At the climax of that fight, when she's holding his spear, like is meant to, the guy behind us goes, "Do it."
No way!
Oh my god!
I would have fucking lost it.
It was so good, and he did like the spot on Palpatine voice. It was
That's amazing.
It was
Oh man, I love
so
people like that.
funny.
Oh my
so
god, that's amazing. I love
well
people
done
that do
to that
random
guy.
shit like that. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this episode up by talking about the two teases that existed in this movie. The first one featured the roles with Martin Freeman returning as Everett K. Ross and Julia Louise Dreyfus returning at Louise Dreyfus. Who henceforth her character's name is, what's her character's name?
Something
Valentina Allegra.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Who is the person that puts together the Thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm.
Henceforth on this podcast, she will never be referred to as anything other than Elaine Bennis. Why? Like, because we're gonna do a Thunderbolts review, and she's gonna be a prominent character in that movie, and the entire time we're going to refer to her as Elaine Bennis.
I love Elaine Bennis.
Madam Vice President from
exactly. Yeah. I love Elaine Bennis. Useless in this movie. Another Marvel shoehorn. Like, why? Really?
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
How many movies has she been in now? That character.
She was in
one or
she
two
was in
others.
She was in Falcon
Eternals?
and the Winter Soldier. She was in Black Widow.
Yeah, she was Yep.
And maybe something else?
Was it?
It actually got kind of screwed up. It got kind of screwed up because if you remember, Black Widow was supposed to come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
So I think we were supposed to already know who she was by the time she showed up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
We did. She's basically like the evil Nick Fury. She's putting together... Yeah, she's putting together Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad, which is the Thunderbolts.
That's what I'm saying.
And the main development in this movie for me is her and Everett Ross are divorcees.
Divorcees.
Yes,
you're right.
Yeah, that was a development.
That was an interesting twist.
I did not realize that, but yes, I wanted to bring that up to just put everyone who listens to this podcast going forward on notice that she will never be referred to as her real name or Valentina Allegra de Fontaine ever again.
Oh my!
She will solely be referred to as Elaine Bennis on this podcast.
I feel like she'd be very insulted to know that. But
well, again, Kelly, it's a tease for, but I actually don't mind it because to me that's kind of reminiscent of what Marvel used to do.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so like I actually didn't mind it. It was a little bit more like she didn't reference the Thunder. Like she didn't
sure.
do. Like,
I just think like this movie had
the team that I'm developing.
This movie had too much going on, and I think and no beef with Elaine. But it's like, that's probably the place that I would have taken my red pen first and been like, no. Like, if we needed to get this...
We don't really need this, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't need it, but sure.
Yes.
We'll do what you do, Marvel. It's fine.
Lastly, we will wrap it up by talking about the mid-credits scene.
Oof.
So first and foremost, once again in this scene, I think Letitia Wright does a really good job of once again like getting over Shuri's grief. Like she sits down, she burns her robe, she goes and meets up with Nakia. She wants to be with Nakia to have closure. Nakia's like set up. for her to come. She sets her robe on fire. She starts crying. You get the flashback cutscenes of her with T'Challa, which was like, oh my god.
Oh, dude, I was
And-
keeping it together. I felt like I was doing a good job the whole movie until the very end, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah. And then we meet young T'Challa after that. And he has been living with Nakia the entire time. And this was T'Challa's decision to have him live there. Queen Ramonda also knew about this. And I guess going forward in the Black Panther movies, we will see the life and young T'Challa growing up to probably one day assume the throne of the Black Panther.
Also, let me just say right off the hop, little Prince T'Challa is the cutest little button I think I've ever seen.
He is a cute little kitten. Or what's a baby? Is that what you call a baby panther?
I don't know.
Baby
Yeah,
panther.
he's a feline. That's in the feline
he's a
family.
little kitten.
I'm assuming he's a
Cute
little baby kitten.
Kelly, you look like you have something you want to say.
Yeah, you guys are gonna kill me. I'm really sorry. This did not work for me.
Kelly,
I'll tell you why. No, you know what? I have no problem that like they've introduced that he had a child. Like I get it, and I think that really helps. You know, like Shuri doesn't feel alone anymore. Like she's got this family and stuff. Like I think that is nice, and I'm not gonna hate on that. I think this is one of those things that I'm like, I'm just gonna try to not think too hard about this because it's like. So what you're suggesting then, let's remove the tragedy that actually happened in real life, but we've lost this character in this universe that this child is 6. So for 5 of those years, this is when like T'Challa was blipped. That sucks. And then you've got that like he also decides that the only person like that's really not going to know about his existence is his sister because there's kind of like his mom knew. Exactly. So it's like they purposely just didn't tell Shuri. Like why was she left out of the loop? Even on his deathbed, why was she? You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't feel nice. Like I think it would have been.
That was really rude.
I just don't like that, and I don't like what that's suggesting about our buddy T'Challa. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't jive for me, so I'm just going to try really hard.
Son of a bitch.
I personally, if I was, like, in the writer's room and didn't have to, like, subscribe to the Marvel formula, I would have had it that they had maybe conceived the child in the year that he was back from being blipped. You know, they had, like, reconnected, fallen in love, had this year of love, and then they had this, like, child right as he was passing. And so, like, that's why she couldn't bring herself to come to the funeral because like she just had this newborn baby and it was all too overwhelming. That to me probably feels a little bit like neater and kind of keeps everyone's character intact. But that doesn't give us a 6-year-old child who's going to age up to be 18 much quicker and be in the next Marvel movie. So let's just ignore that.
Hey, everything's fine.
But I'm thinking too hard about it. I know.
Yeah, I think it was really supposed to come across as more like he was just trying to keep his son as innocent as possible in a world that is like, you know, crazy.
Kelly just didn't think that was a very nice way to treat shit.
Rob, if you had a child and decided that you were like, I'm going to tell everyone except Kelly, you know what? I wouldn't be happy with you. I'd be very upset.
To put it mildly, I would assume.
So all I'm saying, I'm just speaking as, you know, a sister, how I would feel.
Yeah.
That's true. Hey, you know what? I'll take that in, and I will make note of it because that wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Every time that we do a movie review, we always end with a letter grade for the movie. So now's the time. I'm going to give this movie an A-. I really liked it a lot. I'm with Kelly in the sense that it's not perfect, and there's definitely things about it that I would have changed, but it just ticks enough of the boxes. Classic Marvel formula, amazing character development, amazing acting performances. a rare Marvel home run with a villain. Like, so I give this movie gets an A- for me. Who wants to go next?
Oh, go ahead, Kelly. Sorry, I just assumed you were going next. I'm just sitting here.
That's polite of you. I'll give it a generous B plus. Like I'm teetering on a B, but I think we've talked a lot about some positives here, and I do think there's some good stuff here. So I'll give it a B plus.
Do you know what? I was actually initially thinking A-, but I think I'm just going to go solid A. Solid A. Not A+, because I wouldn't necessarily put it in the, like, or maybe I would. I don't know. But I would say, as far as what I think of all of the MCU movies in their totality, and I think of, what some of our grievances have been of late of certain things, and the amount of heavy lifting that this movie was saddled with.
And did it so well. Yes, there are certain little things that again, like we're at a certain point, I do think we're nitpicking, because so for me, I do think that the overarching feeling that I got from this was exactly what I said off the top, which is, will the real MCU please stand up? And I think that they did. I think that they nailed the comedy. I think they nailed the gravitas of the situation. I think they nailed the writing. I think they nailed the acting aspects of it. I think it was a real, I genuinely feel like it was actually kind of a home run for them and a real return to form. So I'm going to give them a solid A. Well, there you have it, folks. And on that, we're going to get out of here. So thank you very much for checking us out. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below. Spread the word. Tell your friends. We really appreciate it. Also do the same if you're listening to the audio version of the show. Little thumbs up, little written review also helps.
Come talk to us. We like to talk.
Come talk to us. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.